On to this story now. Gauteng Premier David Makhura has called on the Special Investigating Unit to probe a controversial e-government communications technology tender. Now, the 30 million rand contract was allegedly awarded without following due process. The Premier's spokesperson, Vuyo Mhaga, tells us more about this particular tender, and he joins us via Skype. Mr. Mhaga, thank you very much for your time. Firstly, are you able to justify the rush for this IT company to have been awarded this contract within 24 hours?
Well, the current stance, we can't justify. That's why the Premier is quite concerned of what exactly has happened there and has really called for the SIU to look deeper into what really happened so that we are able to surface if there's any wrongdoing so that consequences can be taken.
So the deviation, therefore, you're also saying that can't be justified. In fact, can you confirm for us if indeed there was a deviation from normal tender processes?
Well, if there would have been a deviation, I think it would have been prompted by some of the AG's inquiries that were made there. So I've read the papers. My understanding from the preliminary basis, it had nothing to do with COVID-19 as it was alleged on the paper, but everything to do with what the AG would have said, but still does not necessarily justify in terms of the speed that it will have moved.
Mr. Mhaga, what's the track record of this company from what you have been told? How long has it played in the IT space? And also, importantly, how old is the company?
Well, we have not really checked on it. As you'll appreciate, the information will have surfaced to the Premier and ourselves on Sunday. So we really don't understand how far it will have gone, and we hope that those are the issues that SIU will be able to unearth so that we've got a much more fuller appreciation of what is basically at play, and then we can respond adequately.
Are you saying the MEC responsible for this department has not had a conversation with the Premier?
Well, the conversation will be there. You must understand that MECs are not really involved in tenders. MECs obviously play an oversight. The bureaucrats, meaning HOD going downwards, are the ones who are supposed to do the day-to-day running of it. So as soon as that information then surfaces, we'll be able to actually move.
Surely the Premier would have been concerned enough to summon the head of department in this department in Gauteng to find out exactly what the urgency was, and surely this would have made the Premier very uncomfortable.
Well, obviously deviations happen from now and again without necessarily obviously the knowledge of the Premier, as long as deviations are happening within a reasonable space and they can be explained. Why there was a need for particular deviation. So those are the issues that is going to come up. As I've said, is that part of the motivation or the information will have been, there have been an inquiry about the AG around that particular service, and therefore there will have been a request to say we seek for a deviation. And I'm saying, I think for me the issue is about the timing of the particular process. That's what we must basically dig deeper into to have a much more better appreciation.
Mr. Mhaga, for the benefit of our viewers who may not necessarily be au fait with this particular story, tell us exactly which month this tender was advertised and subsequently awarded.
Well, the tender will have been advertised in the month of March. So, I mean, when we actually go through it is about on the 5:15, I think of the 25th, and then awarded on the 10 o'clock on the 26th of March. And it is that period that obviously have brought the eyebrows, obviously to the papers and equally to the Premier. That actually has prompted the Premier that I think let's have SIU to have a much more deeper look at what will have actually happened into this thing. So at a preliminary face value is that there is a bit of a suspicion that comes, but obviously you can't reach a conclusion up until a proper investigation then is done by an independent body that is actually has got that authority to do.
Mr. Mhaga, I'll tell you what concerns me or makes me uncomfortable as a taxpayer, and that is that you're coming onto this interview without information about this company, first and foremost, that has been awarded the tender. You have no clue how old the company is, and you're saying to us that you also can't tell us about this company's track record prior to it having been awarded this tender. You have bidders, including the current service provider, who are saying that this clearly was a predetermined outcome. There's no way that a department can advertise a tender within 2 hours and that tender is awarded.
No, we are together there insofar as the process. That's why we were prompted to go for the SIU to look quite deeper. It would be very amazed of me, Golani, to know each and every tender that actually is awarded in Gauteng. Actually, I ought not to know which tender that is there. But when there are irregularities that are pointed out by citizens or by anyone, it must actually then move us from our comfort zone to say what exactly is happening here and what can we then do, and bring an independent institution to say, please have a look in this particular issue. There has been a complaint and we are equally concerned about it. And that's what the Premier has really basically done, without saying who is who. The important part of it is that there was a complaint and we acted on it. Not only to say we'll do it, but to have an independent body that is constitutionally able to do that work in the form of SIU.
Mr. Mhaga, finally and very briefly, please. This company is said to be sponsoring a soccer team called Morocco Swallows. Now, Morocco Swallows is a soccer club that is very close to our Gauteng MEC of Education, Panyaza Lesufi, who also doubles up as deputy chairperson of the ANC in this province. Can you say, without a shadow of doubt and without hesitation, that this company does not have any links to political heavyweights in this province?
Well, obviously you are then requesting me to throw bones. I can't be able to do that. The only thing that I can't make that inference because MEC Panyaza Lesufi is not an MEC of the said department. He's actually very far from the said department. What he does in his private life and what he wants to do in terms of being part of the Morocco Swallows is really between himself and his really passion. So we can't necessarily want to drag him here. In particular, that is not in line with his direct department in the form of Department of Education, or where he's currently acting as a MEC of Social Development. So it would be very unfair to really make that particular inference.
Mr. Mhaga, I thank you very much for your time. He speaks for Gauteng Premier David Makhura.